Hello, everyone. Everything you experience is the self, is consciousness. There is no personal experience because there is no separate person anywhere in the cosmos. It may appear to you that certain experiences appear and disappear. Certain friends appear and disappear. Certain events appear and disappear. But it's like in your dream, in your night dream, there are all sorts of events which are appearing and disappearing. That in fact, nothing is happening. The events and the people that appear to you in your night dream are your very self. There are no real separate entities. Everything is consciousness, everything is I, everything is your very self. You never lose anybody or gain anybody. It is consciousness just playing to itself, being the only reality, the only player. Moment by moment, creating and perceiving. Celebrating its freedom, celebrating your freedom. It is you as consciousness who plays the game of being a victim, because you like to amuse yourself. And this amusement includes your complaining, your dissatisfaction. It is part of the playfulness of consciousness. It is your imagination. Your creative potential. You create the universe. When you experience the universe as yourself. Infinite creative ways. You are everywhere. And everywhere is in you. You complicate your life because you enjoy this complication. You wish for a different outcome, for a different situation, because you love to wish such things. You play the wishful game. You are the one and only, playing the game of one among so many. The game of separation is your game. I am this and not that. I am this body mind and I am not the universe. That is your playfulness, the game of separation. Well, in fact, there is no separation. The universe is your very being, is your very body. How could this body sustain itself without the entire play of the universe? There are no separate forms that exist of their own. Nothing about you is separate. Nothing about you is phenomenal. The game of phenomenality, the game of materialism, is your play. You imagine yourself to be a mortal form, while you are the universal self, universal being the one reality, the only reality. It is the playfulness of consciousness to ignore itself by identifying itself with a form and so-called remembers itself to be the formless reality, the infinite invisible reality, which we refer to as being, consciousness. So take a look at whatever beliefs you have about yourself. They are false. Because no belief can define you. No thought, no sensation, no event can define you. So you can drop all your definitions of yourself. Whichever way you imagine yourself to be, you can drop all of that in this moment. And be not knowing, being not knowing. Because being is that is neither this nor that. It simply is. Absolute. Being is. And this being is not a man or a woman. Nothing is happening to being. So allow your body, mind, whichever way it's appearing to you, to be borderless, undefined. Do not prefer this over that. Allow everything to be what it is, as it is. No need to figure it out. Okay. Live as this not knowing. Without dragging the past and projecting future. You burn your hands playing with the fire. If you have any questions, anything that you'd like to explore, please unmute yourself. And if you'd like to raise your hand, there is a reaction icon at the bottom of the screen. Any questions? Yeah.
I have this feeling I do not want to waste this precious moment with the question, because it feels so delicious just to be quiet. But maybe it's just a certain immaturity in myself that the thinking still interrupts the being present.
Mhm. Mm. So you're never in two places at the same time, you know. When there is conversation, there is a conversation. When there is silence, there is silence. When there is a thought that, oh, this silence is being interrupted, it's this thought appearing. But what gives this thought validity, truth? What makes this thought to be true? The thought appears, this is disturbing the silence. The thought, in a way, is neutral. It's like a bird flying past the window. What is it that is choosing the silence over this? So consciousness tricking itself. Playing the game of preference. And then feeling, oh my goodness, this is really not working out right now. We're talking, darn, you know, why did I ever raise my, why did I say, hey Magdi, you know, I could have been quiet. It's, in a way, it's a joke. Consciousness playing a joke on itself. Because there is a possibility of the understanding that this is perfect right now. There is a question, and we're exploring the question. It's all is well, it's perfect as it is. And what makes this less perfect than that, whatever that is? Isn't it like some sort of imaginary judgmental realm? The sense that there is, I'm better off, I feel better like this and not as good when there is a conversation. It's interesting to take a look at this stuff. if you attach yourself to something, it's a pain in the butt. You know, it's like you're playing football and you caught the ball, and you gotta hold on tight to it. There are all these heavy guys rushing at you. What are you holding on to, and who is it who's holding on to anything?
But there's still a feeling that thinking feels more cold in a way. I mean, there is a tendency to get lost in thinking, to just be, to lose touch with my feelings, with my body. It's like a disembodiment, just being in my thinking. It's like a cold space. It can be very entertaining, but a groundedness was often missing, that I can feel right now in myself. I'm comfortable in my skin right now, and it's okay to speak. But by myself and with other people in daily living in other circumstances, there is a tendency to just get lost, to like waste something that I don't know. I mean, I know what it is, but I just mean I appreciate right now this moment. That's all.
Yes, I understand. So when we're feeling a little bit disconnected, maybe we're sitting with friends or in a group of a gathering, we're feeling disconnected. And let's say we don't struggle with it. We just we are like not knowing with it. At some point, in the absence of defining yourself as being disconnected, and in the absence of struggling and adding fuel to the fire, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to be. Whatever structure and color is appearing on the screen, it's still a great opportunity for you to be. What I mean by that, because you already are, of course, to be not knowing. As opposed to arguing, adding judgments, trying to figure out like, how come I'm feeling like this? I was feeling better yesterday when I was in the same group of people. Did I say something wrong? So when we get together in these meditations and these meetings, we experience our natural being. We experience presence, beingness, not in order to become attached to that, but to become familiar with our true nature. Well, we are, of course, already are our true nature, but to become more familiar in that in our true nature. And then we can, in our daily life, experiment with them. In particular, in the situation you just described, in a situation where there is some sort of discomfort, let's say, it's a great opportunity. Because when you are comfortable as presence, well, all is well, but it's when the discomfort, when these sorts of situations appear, that these are like golden opportunities for you. Invitations from God. Gifts. Free gifts.
It's quite amazing. I mean, it's really beautiful. I really appreciate the teaching and appreciate this moment. It's really, nothing is missing. And I see many positive changes in my life, in daily living. It's amazing, the whole thing. I mean, it's really beautiful.
Our love, our interest in truth is like the sun shining on the iceberg. We don't need to feel in any particular way. It's not about, capturing a certain feeling or something like a snapshot of God. No. We don't need to. It's what appears on the screen is appearances on the screen. That the sun that's shining is our love for truth, and our interest and our courage to, in those moments, where quote unquote things are perfect, supposedly, would find the perfection in that moment, the perfection at the heart of the imperfection, the so-called imperfection. And naturally, effortlessly, the experience will become more and more translucent.
I find it fascinating for me to observe my mind and to see how easily it it loves to blame or to draw dark pictures immediately. It's, I mean, what an automatic mechanism. And it's beautiful to be able to see it and just to let it be. I mean, not to bother.
Because you are in the theater, you're in the stage, you're sitting, looking, watching the stage, you're in the seat. When you're watching the mind, the intricacy of it, it's seeking, it's analyzing, judging, avoiding, that movement. You're watching the show, and the show is not an external reality. It does not have a reality outside of your very self. The show itself, your mind and you are not two. See, what you perceive and that which perceives are not two. They're one. And that is an instantaneous perceived perceiver perception, actually one, you see. But still, irrespective of the fact that the mind is not separate from you, you are watching, and that which observes is not on the stage. It's not a character on the stage. So when you say your mind, it's like saying your car. Your car is, you could say your car because it's parked in your garage, but it's really not yours. It belongs to the universe, right? I mean, yes, you have a title, but all of that is part of the universe. So your mind is not you, it's part of the universe. That's your mind. You are not your mind. Your mind is defined by you because you are the perceiver of thoughts, of your judgments. The mind belongs to you, but this does not mean you are the mind. Like your wallet belongs to you, your bank account belongs to you, your house belongs to you. This does not mean you are the bank account or the car. But yes, it is interesting to observe the rabbit or rat-like activities. The rat, the rat on the wheel activities of the mind. But the peace comes from knowing yourself as the reality which perceives, whatever that is, without defining it. In this moment, that's what you are. You are the reality which perceives, but it has no name. It's not named vulgar or maybe. It's invisible, infinite, invisible, borderless presence. So then you are not disturbed by the activities of your mind. Okay, the mind is doing this, it's doing that. I've been there, done that, again, okay. But less and less you are buying into the narrative. Less and less. You are becoming more and more distrustful of the narrative of the mind.
Thank you, Magdi. It's beyond words. It's really beautiful. It's precious.
Any questions?
Hey, Maggie.
Hello, Frank. Hi.
Hello. Hey, I'm not driving today.
What
I,
happened?
I always
You ran
always
out of
feel so
gas?
awkward. Yeah, I ran out of gas. Yeah. Yeah, I always feel so funny that I'm always driving when I'm on your thing. Not always, but a lot of times. But anyway, it's good to be home for a
Okay,
change.
it's fine.
Yeah, so a question about communication between okay, so I haven't formulated this question, so it's not going to come out very smoothly, but so there's communication between us as separate human, as what seems like separate human beings. And I'm wondering if that carries on into, is that totally a phenomenal phenomena, or is it something that we carry through into the self after the body goes? Is there communication? Does the communication keep going on? Because it seems like there's a lot, like I'll give you an example here. Like I'll be thinking of somebody and they'll call, or I'll be looking at somebody from behind and they turn right and look right at me. So there seems to be some communication going on beyond the mind.
Yes.
And so does that carry on into what we call death, after death, rather?
Right.
And what is actually going on when that happens?
Mhm.
Just communication in general. Can you talk about that a bit?
It's so there are sound bites right now in our communication here. There is a medium of communication. There are sound bites, waves of sound. And there is the brain, the mechanism, the CPU that deciphers those sounds. But what's important to understand is that the understanding, meaning the meaning that we are sharing, doesn't belong to the CPU, doesn't belong to the brain, nor does it belong to the sound bites, to the wavelength. So there is the medium of communication. We can communicate like we are doing now, via mic. We can communicate via email. We can communicate by writing letters like the old days, or we can communicate by just hugging each other or just sitting together. So there is something that gets transmitted. There is a meaning that is shared in communication. If I speak to you in Chinese right now, which I couldn't do, but in case I could, you won't understand a word. There would be no meaning. And yet, the fact that we change language from English to Chinese doesn't mean that the meaning is in the words. There is the mechanism that needs to be familiar with the medium via which we are communicating, so that my CPU and your CPU have to be in sync. So we both understand English. Our CPUs are in sync. And so I can emit some vocal sounds, which you receive right now, and vice versa. But the meaning doesn't belong to the medium. It belongs to consciousness. It is I understand. Oh, when I say I understand, the I which understands is not I, my brain is understanding your brain or something like that. No, it is I consciousness, which understands. So in communication, there is the medium of communication, and there is the shared meaning, the understanding. So there is a phenomenal aspect, which is whether we're using email or whether we're using mic or whichever way we are communicating, there is a phenomenal medium, but the understanding of the meaning belongs to consciousness. So the phenomenal medium is of no use whatsoever without the transmission of meaning, without the understanding, right? What's the point of having sound waves when there is no understanding? It is the understanding and the communication that matters. Okay? So there is a phenomenal aspect, but what matters is the nominal. In terms of, like, sometimes we get each other's meaning without even a word is uttered. I see what you mean. That's just by being with you. There are also meaning that is transmitted via body language and via neurons, mirroring neurons. They sort of get you, detect something in you. It could be like a facial expression or just something non-verbal that I can detect. When you are available, meaning when you're not preoccupied, you're more, you pick up in your environment more than when you are preoccupied. When you're preoccupied, it's like there is a fog around you. And sometimes there are some things happening in your environment, but you don't pick them up, you don't sense them. While when you are more free from preoccupation in your natural state as presence, you are more sensitive, you're more sensitive. You can pick up more information, more understanding, more data, more from your environment. Especially when you are in a relationship with other human beings, you can sense something about them. In that it's nothing, to praise, like nothing that is nothing special about you as a person, not like a psyche. No, it's natural. It's effortless aspect of how we are. Because it's one consciousness. There aren't actual separation in the realm of being, in the realm of existence. You can call it sometimes intuition, but it's much simpler than intuition.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Matthew, so that communication that happens between us as human beings, because it doesn't seem to me like the self consciousness would have a desire to communicate, because it's just one. So where's this desire to communicate? So is it just that in the phenomenal level, we as believing that we're human beings, we have this desire to talk to one another, but the meaning for that communication is given by, it has to be self-consciousness that gives the meaning. But once the human is out of the way, does consciousness still have a desire to communicate within itself?
Well, consciousness is complete freedom. Yeah, right. Consciousness is complete freedom. So it's free to, but there are infinite possibilities. Why does consciousness communicate? Because it enjoys it. Does it have to? There's no have to. There are no conditions. There are no rules. There isn't like the big ruler out there, that is ruling.
It's communicating, but it seems like it's communicating like it's one point in consciousness speaking to another somewhat, maybe another point in consciousness. But given that there are no separate beings, I don't see how that continues away. I just don't have the understanding that how that would work.
Well, I mean, look at the waves, right? I mean, one wave rises, and then as a wave is moving, there are other waves that is connected to many other waves, right? So the communication, which is basically composed of perceptions, sensations, and thoughts. They're how consciousness moves within itself to itself. What is there to understand about the waves? It's just the movement of the ocean. What is there to figure out? What are you trying to figure out? What are you trying? What is it puzzling you? What is puzzling you?
Are you asking me that like
Yes.
literally right now? Oh,
Yes.
I don't know. I've been thinking about this for a while, how like sometimes I think about how I hear people communicating with people that have gone beyond the body mind, and they're like, there seems to be communication going on.
Let's stay with, before we go into beyond the depth of the body. Let's just stay with before that. What's puzzling you about communication in the way we're communicating, in the way people communicate?
I don't know if I'm puzzled. Yeah, I guess I am puzzled. I don't know exactly what it is, but I just something that comes up every once in a while. I go, what is this communication thing all about? Like, I'll give you an example. Like I was thinking about.
It's about meaning, right?
Okay.
I mean, we communicate.
What?
We communicate in order to share meaning, right?
Share meaning.
Yes.
Yeah. Like right now, you and I talking. That's consciousness talking to itself, right?
Well,
I don't.
What is there anything else besides consciousness?
No.
Okay, so therefore, if we're talking about communicating, then yes, it is consciousness communicating to itself. I wouldn't get stuck so much about, okay, how come consciousness is communicating to itself? What matters is to understand that there is one reality. Mm-hmm. Because, like in your night dream, there are so many things going on. You're trying to figure out what's going on inside of your night dreams. It's just night dreams. There's nothing going on. Figure out, well, what's going on in night dream? I mean, who's talking to whom and so on. Nobody's talking to anybody. It's just consciousness. You, the dream, dreaming this dream. Yeah, I mean, that's a metaphor, the metaphor of the night dream. So we communicate, we exchange meaning. Is it consciousness talking to itself or not? Yeah, of course, there is no other candidate. What other candidate is there besides consciousness? Is there any other reality besides consciousness?
Yeah.
So communication is about meaning. Meaning means understanding. Any moment of understanding is an aha moment. Is a yes moment. Oh yes, like we say, yes, I understand. This moment of oh yes, it's a moment of pure being, pure consciousness. So consciousness plays the game of communication in order to arrive to, oh yeah, I get you. It's like a joke. You hear the joke, you hear the joke, you hear the joke, communication period. At some point when there is the punchline, you get it and you laugh. When you get it and you laugh, at that moment, this moment of pure being, pure consciousness.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
Yeah, I don't even have any. I don't even. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. I was gonna. No, I'll let you go.
in terms of the death of the body and communication with the dead, it's important to understand that consciousness is not a body, that a wave is made out of water, it's made out of the ocean. So there is within the realm of experience, we experience moments of love and beauty, moments where we are connected with ourselves in relationship with another. Any moment of love and beauty is a moment of self-recognition. And so as a loved one dies, the love and the happiness that we experience with each other does not die with the body of the deceased. So it's still there. The love that we experience with our pets or parents or friends, you know, these moments of love are still there, and they surface on occasion, they surface. It doesn't mean that there is somebody who is a spirit after death who is now communicating to you or anything like that. That's just an interpretation of the mind. We all know moments where we feel this intimacy with a deceased parent or friend. It's as if we're together for a moment. And it's very, very precious. It's a quality that transcends the sense of separation in those moments. These are moments where you know yourself as the other, and you know the other as yourself, across, meaning beyond time, beyond space. How the mind interprets it is a different matter. The mind may interpret this experience in so many different ways, but that's just interpretation. Our experience is an experience of love or warmth or intimacy. So there's no such thing as communicating with the dead. But that's very the business. A lot of people make a lot of money with that.
Maggie, what do you think is going on? I'm sorry to cut you in, but what do you think is going on with these people? Some of these people, and I don't listen to those people at all. I used to, but these people that say they're talking to the dead, and sometimes they're really getting things that are really that only that dead person and the person that's listening would know. Is that just guessing or what? Is there anything to that at all? I mean, I know there are other people here. I want them to go ahead, but
No,
I just
it's
want
okay.
that'll be my last question.
Now, in order not to be too categorical about this, I am open to the possibility that yes, that could be a play that consciousness may play. I mean, why not? Consciousness may play the game of, I can talk with your great grandfather. You want to talk with him? Come and see me, and you'll talk to your great grandfather. Why not? But this doesn't. It's only. It's part of the freedom of consciousness too. Everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no reality outside of consciousness. There are no after death people, there is no realm called the realm of the dead that has an existence outside of consciousness. That's the main point I want to share with you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Thanks, Maggie. I want to get let other people a chance to share here.
All right,
okay, thanks. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
It's always fun to talk to you.
Yes, same here. Any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, hello. Your name is D?
Desmond, but
Desmond. Hello, Desmond. Yes.
well, as an intro, before you mentioned, I think to Holger.
Sorry to interrupt you, Desmond. Is it possible for you to turn on your video or?
No, not where I am.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Yes, you mentioned to Holger, I think the terms might have been lessening the narrative or not buying into the narrative. Anyway, my question is, the word practice seems to be somewhat sanctioned in direct path circles, or at least some. But it seems to me, from my experience of laziness and inadvertence over a long period, that practice is a very good word for not being the self, but for returning to the self, or at least to some proximity. Do you get my drift? That
yes, about what practice? But what practice do I recommend?
That's probably even a better question. My real question was, I think you've answered it. Then the word practice isn't regarded as non-kosher.
Oh, okay. Well, in terms of practice, I am not much into recommending practices, especially online, and especially with somebody who I haven't worked with or been a friend of for quite a while to make such recommendations. But as a general rule, when somebody is interested in practice, at first, I don't see anything wrong with practice. Okay, I'm not like an anti-practice type of guy. I've done a lot of Zen meditation in my youth. What one could call that a practice, but I no longer do any practice. But in terms of practice, I would recommend for you to practice, or for anybody who is interested in practice, to practice whatever they love to practice. So if you like to practice the violin, you can practice the violin. If you like to practice tennis or swimming, you can practice tennis or swimming, as long as you love what you are practicing. Then you can go ahead and practice that because you are enjoying and celebrating life and celebrating God. If you are drawn to reading books about truth and the words of the sages, you can practice that. You can purchase some books of the sages. I could recommend a few, and you could, dive into that. If you are drawn to being in nature and being quiet in nature, then that would be also a good practice. You can take some time off in nature, go hiking in nature. Or years ago, I lived in a hut, in the Appalachian Mountains for a week. It was very lovely to be in, I don't know, like a 12-foot by 10-foot cabin. Beautiful, beautiful setting. Enjoyed doing that. So if you're drawn to do that, you're welcome to do that. I don't recommend practices that you must do, that because your guru has said practice that, and so you're following the guidelines, except of course if you love your guru and you love what the guru told you to practice, then go ahead. But repetitive practices, I am not too much into that, because the brain develops certain tracks, and then it becomes a new self-definition. In a meditator, you become a meditator. So be careful not to get into routine type of repetitive type of practice, except if you are really loving doing so. Then it is your love for the practice, let's call it, that is going to trump everything.
If I could clarify a bit, perhaps with an example, which is a regular, perhaps like many, I regularly walk to the shops and so on. Now, normally I practice, I'm using the word practice here as something that you do regularly, so maybe I'm playing around a bit. Normally I either criticize things that I see or go into a dream, but with enough, with a bit of a cliche, with enough consciousness not to walk into other people or poles. Now I've been occasionally, increasingly, I try to be in touch with the senses. There's a belief that that's a more intelligent approach.
No. There's no significance to that. There is no significance to that. Getting in touch with the senses and becoming more a very, very sensitive person, it doesn't free you. It doesn't lead you to freedom. So that it's about freedom. It's about happiness. It's about liberation. So the reason why we are unhappy is because we believe that we are a mortal body-mind.
Yes.
We believe we are a man, we're a person, we're born, and darn, we're going to die at some point in time. This is the root cause of unhappiness, is our identification, believing that what we are is a mortal entity. So rather than develop your senses and whatever, what I would recommend for you is to ask yourself, okay, what is the evidence that I have that I am born and that I exist in time and space and that I'm a limited personal body-mind? What evidence do I have? We need to inquire into that question. This is the core question. If you can just do that and nothing else, that will be sufficient, nothing else. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that I am born, that I am a body mind, that I'm a limited consciousness? Yes, the body is born. Yes, the body is a male body. Yes, the body is a son, a father, whatever. But that is not evidence that I am born. The fact that the body is born, that the body is limited, that the body is mortal, that the mind is limited. How do I go from that fact to the conclusion that I, meaning I consciousness? Because you need to be clear, ask yourself, what is I in this moment? I define consciousness as I, as the reality which perceives right now. What evidence is there that consciousness is born? What evidence do I have that consciousness is limited, that consciousness is male, that consciousness is mortal? This is the core question you need to dig into. Try that for the next 6 months or 4 months, 3 months, and come back.
I've been doing that regularly, and I just did it as you spoke, and I could find no evidence of.
But only that. You don't need to try to perfect your senses. That belongs to the body. Forget about the senses of the body being more sensitive as a body, being more in tune with the emotions as a body. No, forget about that. Let that be as it be. That is just the weather. This is just the weather. Let the weather be what it is. Don't involve yourself with the weather, with having a better weather, a more harmonious weather. No. Let the weather be what it is and simply investigate the evidence that you have that supports the belief that you're a person.
Okay, so in the walking to the shop scenario, presuming I live long enough to ever do it again, and if I become aware of, as I say, a cloud of thoughts, often criticism, dreaming.
Allow them to be. Thoughts arise, criticism arise. Don't criticize your criticism. The criticism arises. Don't try to stop the criticism. Don't try to feed the criticism. Don't try to neither get rid of it nor maintain it. Be completely neutral to whatever is appearing to you in terms of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions. They are neutral appearances. They're just appearances appearing to you. Don't go into them, into try to fix them, try to justify them, try to understand them, try to find the reason why they're occurring, try to find the reason why they were not there yesterday and they're there today. All of that is of no use.
No, when I remember, it's very clear there have no use. In fact, that would be generous to say they're of no use. I think they're destructive. But that's why I've considered that. And I appreciate what you're saying. One option, and maybe the best one, is to
don't touch it.
Just remember myself. Don't touch it. Yes.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Be like you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're watching the weather, and all sorts of things are happening. You know, thunderstorm, birds, you know, running away from the rain. Cloud. You just don't touch it. Okay, don't touch it. The only thing that you need to look into is any belief that you have about what you are. Any belief that you have about what you are is false. Drop it. Don't hold on to any beliefs about what you are. I am this, I am that, I am born, I am this. None of that. I am, yes, I am. That is a fact. What I am, not knowing. Simply being, not knowing. And anytime the thought arises, I am this, I am that, what's going to happen to me? Then you can investigate what is the evidence that I am this and that and this and not that. What evidence is there? And you're welcome to bring your questions here in these meetings. What evidence do I have that I am this and not that? Then contemplate that the reality of your experience is always on board as I, as awareness, as consciousness. You know, the rocking chair, sitting in the rocking chair as a metaphor, or you're sitting in the theater. That is, I am. I am, and I do not know what I am. And I don't need to know what I am. Explore that direction. And please bring whatever questions you have as you're exploring this direction. So make that your practice.
Okay, that's clear. Am I allowed just one butt?
Yes. Yes.
It's not really about it, I don't think. My conjecture, and maybe I wasn't clear, is that, and this seems very logical, that if the body-mind is walking down the street, there's only two choices in one sense. It's either to, well, maybe three choices: to be fully resting in the self and somehow, God knows, I won't even speculate.
It is not the body which is resting in the self. It is the self which is resting in the self. It is not the body-mind. It is the self which is resting in the self. It is always resting in the self.
Got that. So, but when the body-mind is walking down the street, the other two options, one is dreaming on whatever level, dreaming, thinking, etc. I would think the other is being in touch with the senses.
The senses they appear to you. A sensation appears to you. You don't need to get in touch with it. It appears to you. It may appear to you as a toothache. It may appear to you as the sensation of your feet on the ground. It may appear to you as hunger. Sensations appear to you. You don't need to get in touch with the senses because there is no you who is getting in touch with the senses. There is nothing you need to do. The sensation appears, consciousness takes on the form of a sensation. There is nothing you need to do to get more in touch or less in touch. All that is falsehood. It's a false teaching. Don't indulge in somebody needing to get in touch with the senses or to get more in touch with the senses. There is no one to do that.
Okay, although I'm still not sure. What I meant was, and I didn't say it clearly, and maybe I'll have another shot, is that I guess I'm describing a progressive sort of path here. As you say, I fully accept that if one can remember to ask whatever question, who is it who's experiencing these feelings and thinking about the senses or anything else?
There is no one who is experiencing those feelings. These feelings, these sensations are appear in consciousness. By the way, there are no feelings. There are sensations, like a sensation in your throat, a sensation in your neck, in your face, a sensation, warm, hot, whatever sensation. And there are thoughts. Both the sensation and the thought appear within awareness, within consciousness. They don't appear to someone. They appear within consciousness. So there is no one, no particular one, no special one, or no valuable one, no spiritual one that needs or could or should do some special activity, some special thing with the sensations and the perceptions and the thoughts. Allow them to be as they are. They are what they are as they are. They are what they are. Simply do not refer to yourself as somebody, a limited self. Don't refer to you as anything. And if you refer to yourself as anything, ask yourself, on what evidence am I referring to myself as this and not that? What is the evidence? What basis? This way you are cutting to the chase,
Right, yes. Okay. So would you accept as a progressive path that if consciousness is dreaming, if I am dreaming, then one possibility that might come to mind is that if I were to, I was about to repeat, be in touch with the senses, to be aware of what the senses were indicating, such as feeling feet on the ground, the play of air on the face, colors, shapes, I won't go on.
Yeah, it makes sense to be in touch with the senses, because if you're hungry and you're not in touch with the hunger, I mean, the body is going to die.
Yes.
It makes sense to be in touch with it. If you see a car driving, you're crossing and the car is coming towards you, there is a perception of a vehicle, a large vehicle coming at a certain speed. It makes sense to be in touch with the senses and take a step back on the sidewalk for the body to be safe. But all of that is already built in within the biocomputer. It's already built in within the biocomputer.
Well, I can see that hunger is built in and breathing, obviously, but being in touch can be overridden by dreaming, can't it? We cannot see our best friend sometimes if you're lost in thought.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Can you repeat that? If you are lost in thought, well, if you are lost in thought, all what it means is that there are thoughts appearing to you. Okay, when a thought appears to you, like the thought today is Thursday, it's just a thought appearing to you. There is nobody being lost in thought, right? There's just a thought appearing to you. Now, what does it mean to be lost in thought? To be lost in thought, in my understanding, means that I believe myself to be somebody who is lost in the thought. Like I have a blindfold on me, and there are 20,000 thoughts around me, and I'm walking with blindfolds and I'm lost in thoughts. Now, you're not somebody blindfolded walking around in the realm of thoughts. You are awareness, your consciousness perceiving a thought, perceiving a perception, perceiving a sensation. There is no one who is lost in thought. There isn't a somebody who is lost in thought. It's a story, it's a belief that that there is somebody, and that's me, who somehow is out there in the realm of thoughts, and I'm lost, and I should not be lost. I need to find my way not to be lost in thoughts. Darn, that sounds like a big burden. I wouldn't trouble myself with that game of being lost in thought and trying to rediscover my freedom from thoughts. No, thoughts are not an issue. Thoughts appear to you. I mean, without thoughts, we would be dead without thought as a human species. We need thought in order to know where the refrigerator is, and in order to know where the market is, where our car is. We need thought. So thought is part of our experience at the phenomenal level, and it has its place, and there is no reason to make a problem out of thought like many teachings speak. I don't agree with that. The only thought that I encourage you to take a look at is not a thought, it's a belief, which is also a thought, but it's a thought that is not unsubstantiated thought, that I am somebody who exists, I am an appearance. I am somebody who exists in time and space. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a person, I'm born. That belief is the only party pooper. It's the only aspect of your experience which you need to investigate. What is the evidence that I am somebody? What is the evidence that supports this belief that I'm a man, that consciousness is limited and personal, that consciousness is born and is going to die in 40 years or whatever? What evidence is there? You see? But thoughts, not a problem. I mean, I actually enjoy thoughts. Sometimes I enjoy just sitting around and thinking. What's wrong with that?
Okay.
And these
I'll
are,
just add.
you know, things for you to consider.
Yes. Yep. Well, I'll just throw in that it's because I've often thought about these matters while I am walking. I do a bit, not exercise, but going to shops and so on and so forth, quite a lot.
Yeah.
And of late, just a few times I've decided, shall we say, to stop the dreaming and unnecessary thinking, which is, I think, an implicit acknowledgement that I am awareness, but that might be a stretch at the time.
Awareness doesn't care about thinking. It thinks all it wants. Awareness is never trying to stop the thinking. No. A person, somebody who believes that there's somebody that would be better off without thinking or with less thinking, would indulge in such activity. Not awareness. No.
Okay, anyway, the experience was to turn the attention to the senses as opposed to whatever thoughts were going on, which they weren't entertaining, otherwise I would have stuck with them. And it was a positive experience. For example,
yeah,
there's the sense of, instead of walking through the world, the body-mind walking through the world, that the world is coming towards the body-mind.
Yes.
Which is sort of entertaining.
Yes, it is. It's, yes, the world appears to you. Yeah, experientially, when you turn your attention to your experience. I wouldn't say to the senses, but to your experience, you will notice that the world appears within you. And as you are, as there is movement, it is the world that is moving. You don't move. Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, so you can see why I had such a positive notion of trying to come to the senses as opposed to
yes,
dreaming. I'm well aware of proper thought.
What you are sharing is an interesting insight, I wouldn't get too stuck around it because it already delivered. It sounds to me like you already received the insight that you are not moving in the world, but the world is moving in you. That's a very good insight, very good insight. But move on. Don't stay there, okay?
Well, I'm glad you said that because my last experience of it, like I said, it was very entertaining and interesting, and I thought, but so what?
It's a significant insight. The insight is that the world appears to you, movement appears to you, you don't move. That's an important insight. But I'm inviting you to that's great. You received the insight already. You can move on. But I invite you in your life to focus on happiness. And you will, if you focus on happiness, not happiness as a result of something, just the exploration of happiness, you will find that whenever there is unhappiness, there is the belief that I am a separate, limited, mortal entity. And at that moment, the moment of unhappiness, it can be small things. You can explore, ask yourself, investigate that belief, investigate the validity of that belief. Because by eroding this belief, you will erode the veils of ignorance.
Okay, yes, thank you. Erosion, great word. Thank you.
Okay, nice talking with you.
Ditto.
I forgot your name is Desmond, right? Desmond. Yes. Wonderful. Nice to meet you, Desmond. Okay, well, very lovely to be with you all. Holger and Desmond. Hello, Lynn, Mark, and hi, Holly. Lovely to be with you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Region is the worst
Thank you,
hit with
Magdi.
allegations